I have a second channel. Cube Comp MTDX.
Hey everybody, here we have this Blue Point portable LED shop light that also serves as looks to serve as a power bank. It's a DC 5 volt max 2 amp. Maybe that's for charging it. Not 100% certain because it is a micro USB. So you have these little things here on the side that pop out and you can hang it up and things like that. And it looks like a magnet right here to where you can clamp it onto the side of anything metal. The reason why it's here is because, as you saw, it only stayed on for just a moment. Which leads me to believe that perhaps the battery is bad. This is brought in by my dad's friend. He picked it up at a yard sale or something. I don't know where, but we'll see if I can look at it. See if I can replace the battery or whatnot. So I'm going to try to get into this thing. See what we can find. Just making sure there's no hidden screws. Yep, we got. There's a magnet here and a magnet here. Interesting. So yeah, we had some hidden screws under the little hook. So let's try to get into this thing, see if we can figure something out here. That's if my little screwdriver can even fit. Okay, going to use the manual screwdriver, it looks like, for this. And what do you know, we do have, in fact, a single lithium-ion battery in this thing. I mean, in a cylindrical cell form. And it's the 18650, so interesting. It looks like replacing the cell in this, if it's bad, would not be too awful difficult. The thing I'm wondering, though, is if it's soldered into place. Or if the battery is actually bad. Here's you look at it. You have your 18650 lithium ion cell. And it's a 2100 milliamp hour cell. Up here you have this circuit board with it's okay soldering quality. Just trying to figure out here. Okay, so the cell lifts right out. Okay, so essentially what they've done here is they had this 18650 cell plugs in right here. $18650, 2100 milliamp hours, 7.77 watt hours, 3.7 volts nominal. Of course, it's a lithium ion cell. Okay, so for doing any additional testing, let's check our battery voltage. See if it's okay. Now this trying to keep a steady hand here because I'm putting these terminals really close freaking together. So maybe perhaps the cell is completely dead, but what's weird is we got a little bit of light out of the thing just a moment ago when I went to test it. The light flashed for like not even a second and was out. Yeah, meter's working fine. It's measuring this cell properly. So here's a known good cell. Fully charged. 4.13. And this one is doing absolutely nothing. So we very well could have a bad cell here. Makes me wonder if this device has proper cell protection built into it, or if it's integrated into the actual lithium-ion cell. Because if I were to go to replace this cell, I have to kind of know whether this has a protection or this has a protection. I'm going to disconnect this circuit board and see if we have any sort of circuitry on there. I imagine we would have to, because this thing charges off of USB power. Yeah, I think so. So on the circuit board we have kind of hard to see. Let the camera get a good focus on it. TP4056 looks like. If I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty common integrated circuit that handles lithium cells, handles the charging and management of them. So it could very well be likely that we have a faulty lithium cell in this thing. So it makes me wonder if this device has proper over-discharge protection built into it, or if it's got a protection circuit on the actual cell. That'd be the next one. That'd be the next thing we have to investigate. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is see if I can undress this cell in a way. I want to see if we have an integrated protection circuit in here that could be faulty, or if we legitimately have a bad cell. Okay, so inside here, okay, so here's what's going on is this entire thing. Yeah. So what they done here is they took an existing lithium-ion battery, 18650, and they wrapped in a connector and some stuff. You can see the wrapping of the actual cell right there. It's green. You have to use some caution when ripping into these things. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cut the blue wrapping, but also not short out the connections here or damage the wrapping of the actual cell, which can prove to be a little challenging. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is try to check the voltage again. Now that we have some contacts exposed. Yeah, she's over discharged. We're actually getting voltage now, but it's 2.8. Well, it's not... I should say it's not terribly over discharged. I mean, I've recovered cells from that state before. Okay. I've now noticed something here. We do have a protection circuit on this cell. And what's going on is the protection circuit has locked out the cell itself. So, there was a protection circuit right inside here. And kind of an interesting design that it's on the side of the battery cell and not at the negative side on the bottom. So what makes me wonder, I should say, is if I pop this into my OPUS BT C3400 charger, if it would actually try to charge it. What I should say is if I am successfully able to raise the voltage of the cell, if the protection circuit would allow it to operate. Because I don't think this cell is actually bad. I think what's going on here is the cell voltage has dropped to where the protection circuit is locking it out. Okay, so this is the positive terminal. This looks to be some sort of generic Chinese cell. It doesn't, I mean, it looks sort of like an LG cam, but I know it's not, obviously, because it would say so on the side. It would have LG on the side. This is just some, probably made in China, lithium ion cell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this in my charger. And we'll see if it will charge. I'm going to bring my charger down here, and let's see what we can get. Again, it's interesting, the protection circuit this has, it's on the side. It's up inside here. So we're going to continue for what I was saying a moment ago. The thing on protection circuits I don't exactly care for is they typically have a strip of metal running down the side of the cell. Kind of like this in a way. And if something happens between the actual, if this cell wrapper gets damaged for some reason and it allows the positive to make contact with any part of the side of this thing, you could have a dead short. Or you will have a dead short. So I'm going to try to work this thing on. And you can see it's showing 2.84. I'll let it go at 500 milliamps for just a moment. watch the cell voltage. Because I'll be honest, if I want to, I could use this charger to actually charge the battery cell up. But I figure now I'll just put some into it and see what happens here. I want to see if I get above a certain point, if it will start to supply voltage to this right here. I think what's happened here is the previous owner of this light ran it down till it shut off, till the main circuit board stopped pulling power, and then tossed it in the back of his truck or in his drawer in his shop or what have you, and just let it sit there over time. And the cell, the thing, and this is another thing about protection circuits I don't like, is they always draw just a very small amount of current from the battery cell. So when that cell sits for an extended period of time, it will eventually drain it down and over discharge it. Now 2.8 volts is not terribly bad, but if it were to sit for an even longer period of time, what could happen is it could actually the cell, it could damage the cell. So actually, I'm going to increase this current up to 1,000, up to 1 amp. That's what I normally charge my 18650s at. Now we'll just let that sit for a little while and let it charge up. Let's see what we get. So I had forgot to mention that the guy who brought this to my dad did try to charge it with a USB charger. This one right here, it's actually goes to a motor. It's actually a Motorola charger, but it's the same thing, micro USB. It says he tried to charge it, it wouldn't take a charge. Well, what I think's happened here is the little protection circuit may be locking out on both ends. It may not allow current to be drawn from the cell, and it probably isn't allowing current to be supplied to it to charge it. So I'm just curious to see if using this charger to bring the battery voltage back up, if the protection circuit would unlock and allow this cell to operate. I mean, there is the alternative. There is bypassing the protection, which would make it work, but I'm not exactly a fan of doing that on this. Because, of course, I'm familiar with how to use lithium-ion cells, and I know how far to take them down, how far to bring them up, but let's say something goes wrong with the main circuit board in this light. Somebody lets this thing sit and run down very far. If you let a lithium cell run down too far, it can, when you go to recharge it, it can be hazardous. So let's check our voltage now. We are at 3.34. So it looks like it's recovering quite nicely. I think I'm going to actually go ahead and fully charge this cell. Or at least put a good bit in it, I think. So we've only put about 45 milliamp hours into it already in just 2 minutes. So while that's going, just out of curiosity, See if I can measure voltage on this terminal. We're still not getting anything. So what could be the case here is it may permanently lock out the cell no matter what voltage it rises up to. Perhaps if I disconnected the circuit from the battery and then reconnected it, maybe it would reset it. I don't know. So I think what I'll do is we'll let the voltage increase a bit further. But, I mean, hey, there's a chance that this protection circuit could just be flat out faulty. They do fail sometimes. Okay, but it's about 5 minutes later. Let me see actual time. Yeah, about that, and it's still putting a 1 amp into it. We're up to 3.57 volts. 160 milliamp hours about. And the protection circuit has in fact unlocked. It's supplying voltage to the connector now, which is good news. I hate these little things. You gotta be careful not to accidentally short it out. So we're getting about 3.7 volts at the connector now. So it does appear the protection circuit is in fact functional. It's just the battery voltage dropped down below the protection circuit's minimum threshold. So it started to lock out the cell. So it does look like the protection circuit is functional. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and let this cell charge up and see what the capacity is of it. If it's a real low capacity, I may just replace the cell, which might be a little tricky because I want to retain the existing protection circuit. Okay, the battery has finished charging, and have a look at the capacity. 2146 milliamp hours is what I put into it, so I'd say that cell is perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it right back up and get it reinstalled and get this thing back together. Okay guys, this morning I tested out the battery, or at least the charger showed like 2100 something milliamp hours, which is great. It means the battery should be fine. So I'm going to do first, before I do anything else, let's just give it a little voltage check. Make sure that we still got a decent amount of voltage on the cell. It's been sitting, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. This cell has been sitting for about maybe about 15 hours since I took it off the charger this morning. Yeah, that's your basic Chinese lithium 18650. And go ahead and check the plug to make sure it's getting voltage. Which it's nice that our protection circuit was able to unlatch and let this thing work again. So that's all that happened with this. Oh yeah, perfect. That's all that happened was the battery cell voltage got low enough to trigger the low voltage cutoff, and it wasn't allowing the flashlight to charge the cell. So essentially, we bypassed the protection circuit with this charger, and once we brought this cell voltage back up, the protection circuit unlocked and allowed the cell to function. So, with that being said, it's time to go ahead and kind of repack this cell back up. Now, I don't have any of this wrapping. I gotta order some. I mean, I gotta order some so I can rewrap some 18650s, but what I'm gonna do is use the alternative. So we really wouldn't, I don't think we'd actually have to wrap the whole thing, but I'm going to anyway. I mean, it's the way I found it. I gotta use electrical tape for this, because I don't have, as I mentioned, I don't have that shrink wrap that they use to wrap these things. It's like heat shrink tubing, more or less. It functions about the same. I just have to make really sure that I cover up the ends, both the positive and the negative of the cell. And I use this 3M 10 Flex 1700 electrical tape because it's proven to be pretty dang reliable. It's not like some of the other stuff where it just over time will start to unravel itself and get sticky and messy and stuff. So I'm going to first start up by putting some over the ends. On this side, I got to do things a wee bit different. Okay, so yeah, the key thing is I wanted to make sure I covered up both the positive and negative terminals. Now I'm going to go ahead and just wrap the whole thing. I'll start down here at the bottom and work my way around. It's not going to look exactly showroom perfect, but I mean, this thing is going to be inside of a flashlight, so who gives a crap? So I'm always for reusing cells when they're good. And luckily today, this cell was perfectly fine. See, the thing is, a lot of people, those who would actually open up something like this, would be like, oh, the battery's bad, it's not got any voltage on it, toss it in the trash. Which, with lithium cells, it's not a good thing to do. Well, any battery cell, you should recycle. Oh, trust me, I used to throw away alkalines when I was a kid in the trash, but I barely ever use alkalines anymore because I'm using rechargeables. And anytime I have to dispose of rechargeables, it's always recycle them. Take them to Best Buy or somewhere like that and have them actually recycled. Okay, so it's wrapped up. Next, we need to go and apply the little cushions. And for that, I'm going to use some hot glue to fasten that on there. Don't need much, just a little bit. Yeah, because literally this thing just rests inside the flashlight, and there's little pads inside that actually cushion the cell. I mean, all it is the flashlight has like a little plastic mold in there with that felted rubber, what do you want to call it, cushioning. It keeps the thing from moving around too much. So I'm also going to reapply some glue onto the connector like they had it previously. Although I'm not exactly a fan of hot glue for this. I mean, it'll work. And we'll go ahead and plug in the cell. Magnet. That's right, there's a magnet on the bottom of this thing. And we have light. Good as new. Let me turn that off. So yeah, that makes me wonder. if this device has the proper low voltage protection built into it. I think it does. I mean, that little integrated circuit, I've seen that model number before. And it references to a basically the same kind of circuit that you would find in a power bank or something like that. Try to gently tuck this cell back into place. I'm telling you guys, that's a pretty cheesy freaking connector. Okay, it's down inside there now. I'm sorry I didn't get that on video. I'm just over here talking to myself, I reckon. But so got this thing sitting in place. The glue is still drying. So now we can go ahead and put this thing back together. It'll be good as new. The only downside to this is I don't think I'll be able to know if it's charging. Now what would be nice is if I had one of those USB voltage USB voltmeters and amp meters. Essentially they go between a USB power source and what you're charging, and it'll tell you the voltage and the current that's being pulled off of your power source. You see, the thing is, I'm looking at the that USB micro USB port, and it looks like it does have some wear on it, but I mean, let's see. So it's all back together now. Sweet. So you press the power button once, you get the light on the end. You press the power button again, you get the bar light on the side, which is pretty bright, I must say. You press it again and it shuts off. I think this could make a very handy light for somebody. So the guy who bought this will be happy to know that it's working. But I'm still curious to know. See, the thing is, can't really tell if it's charging. Because I don't see any LED in the... Wait a second. Hold up. I do see a small LED down inside there. Let me see what happens if I... or when I plug in the charger. Which is just a... let me see here. It's a Motorola cell phone charger, but it does the same thing. And let's see if this thing does anything. Which it may not even want to charge, given the battery is full. So one thing that could be going on with this, maybe, I gotta think about it, but I wonder if the little battery monitoring and charging circuit is actually going faulty. I mean, the thing still works, but I'm just wondering if it actually is charged or even tries to charge or monitor the cell or whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it back to its owner, say use it, try to charge it, see if it'll charge up, and if the thing suddenly stops working again, where it doesn't want to power on or do anything at all, more than likely You have to excuse my neighbor who is running their dirt bike at 10 o'clock at night. So as I was saying, I'll give it back to its owner. Say, try to use it. If it suddenly dies and doesn't want to work anymore, I mean, it means the protection circuit on the cell has activated again. And that would tell me that I think the TP 4056 circuit has gone bad. I mean, they probably didn't give much of anything for this flashlight, so anyways. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's CubeCompMTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.